So do I refer to you as Durr or Patrick or
Durr?
Durr? All right, let's do that. You good? So let's get started. Just for the record, if you would tell us your name and the branch of your service and the years of your service.
Okay, my name is Thomas Patrick Durr from High Springs, Florida. I went into the Army 1967 to 1977. I had a 3-year break in between there where I was in the reserves. 1977 when I got out and came back home.
Okay. So tell us about your upbringing. Where were you raised and what it was like?
I was, High Springs was a little old town. It was a farming town / railroad town. And I was raised on a farm where we raised hogs, corn, peanuts, and then had vegetable garden. We worked hard, but we worked for real, honestly.
Yeah.
I come from a military family, going all the way back to the Civil War,
Wow.
right on up. So I knew when I got out of high school that I was going to go into the service. I already had 2 brothers that were in the service, and I knew when I got out of high school I was going to go into the service, and I did. I graduated from high school on a Friday, and I joined the Army that Monday. I went to basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, where the training was something to me like football training because it was all about physical fitness and courtesy. So I took basic training to be just like football training when I was in high school. And it made basic training so much easier for me compared to some of the other guys that were there that were constant complainers and failures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So another thing about my basic training unit is that at this time, we had no Southern whites in our unit. We was, the Army at that time was transitioning from segregated to integrated. And we had no Southern whites in our unit because of the racial turmoil that was going on back in the very early 60s, 67 specifically.
Yeah.
And all our white trainees were from northern or western countries or states. So it made being there a little easier. They didn't harass us or anything like that. They just didn't associate with us. My drill sergeant was very, very important in my life because when we first got there, he told us that he was going to teach us everything he knew because some of us was going to be going to Vietnam with him and he wanted to come back alive. So basic training was very, very rigid, but it was good. I went from a 135-pound weakling to about a 170-pound muscle man. I was an expert with the M14 rifle. I made E2 straight out of basic training, which you had to be in the top 10 of your graduating class in order to be promoted. So I was in the top 10 of my graduation class, and I made E2 right out of basic training. After our 10 weeks of basic training, I was sent out to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. I was going to school to learn how to be a telephone lineman. And out there, we learned how to climb poles and string telephone wire. That was 8 weeks of training out there. And then when I did finish that, I went home for 2 weeks. And after my 2-week break, I went to Vietnam. I got to Vietnam January the 12th, 1968.
Oh my goodness, that was just before Tet.
That was just before Tet. I got there right in time for Tet.
Huh.
Now, make Vietnam so painful is that even with all the training that we received from basic training and AIT, it really doesn't tell you what combat really is.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I heard a bullet zing past my head and saw this dust kicking up around my feet, it was like, this can't be real. This can't be real. You know, why are they shooting at me?
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me within that split second, they're shooting at me because I'm the enemy. I was the point man. They didn't give me no instructions on what to expect walking out there in them jungles. I didn't go to school to be a point man. I learned to be a point man by wanting to survive. When I got to my unit, 1st Battalion, 69th Armor Brigade, Recon Platoon, I was the only black in my unit. I was the only black in my unit. I had a 4-man tent that nobody slept in that tent but me. They called me private nigger so much that I started answering when they would call me. Hey, private nigger. Yeah, here I am, Sarge. Here I am, sir. It got to the point where I hated my own color. And every time we went on patrol, I was on the point. But I never got shot. And I never lost a man following behind me in my squad. Never. The day that I would have gotten killed, we had a dog with us. We had a dog handler with us. It was the dog, then me, then the dog handler, and everybody else. And the dog got up at the trail and he stopped moving. He just stood there. He just stood there. Well, when I got up there with the dog, he didn't want to let me by. Every time I tried to go past him, get in my way, and I drew my foot back to kick him. Get the hell out of my way, dog. And this handler hollered, don't you kick my dog, there's something up there. I don't see nothing. How can something be up there? I don't see a thing in the world. And so the dog handler came on up there and he got down on his knees and he started talking to his dog, saying, what is it, boy? What is it? What's up there? What you see? What you hear? You smell something? He was just talking to his dog like he was talking to a person. And he eased up the trail very slowly and told me to stay right behind him. And I did. I stayed right behind him. And as he eased up the trail, the dog stopped. When the dog stopped, he said, there it is. It was a little thin piece of wire, like a guitar string. Thin piece of wire. Probably about 5 to 6 inches off the ground. I never would have seen it. I never would have seen it, and I never would have looked for it because I had been on that trail several times before.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for that dog, I would have tripped that wire. And the wire was a attached to what we call a 155 canister round. A 155 is a type of artillery. And the canister round, about so big, so long, with hundreds of steel bars in there, not ball bearings, they shaped like little square. Hundreds of them inside that round. They had the stick pulled back with a nail drove in it that if I had tripped that wire, it would have released that board and the nail would have hit the firing pin. And that would have been the day I would have died. But I owe my life to that dog. And I owe my life to that guy that was in charge of that dog that day. And I never saw that dog, and I never saw him again the whole while I was in Vietnam. Because when we came off of patrol this time, I refused to go on patrol again. I refused to go on patrol again. I had been there probably about 6, 7 months. Being out on patrol was just as bad as being in basic camp during that time, really, because when you're on patrol, you know the bullet's going to come. You just don't know when they're going to come. And when you're in the base, in the rear, what we call base camp, you know the rockets and the mortars are going to come. You just don't know when they're going to come. And then I'm with a group of guys that I got to watch my back because they don't care nothing about me. So after I refused to go on patrol again, they gave me an Article 15, reduction in rank by 1 grade. I was a PFC at the time. They reduced my rank to E2. They forfeited 2/3 of my pay and gave me 30 days confinement. All because I didn't want to pretend I was infantry and go back out there in them jungles and take a chance on getting killed again. So after I did my 30 days confinement, they sent me to a different unit. Just the unit I was in, not that one. Just the unit I was in with all the racism.
4th Infantry Division?
4th Infantry. And when I finished my 30 days confinement, they sent me to the 173rd. Well, the first day I got to the 173rd, the very first day I got there, I was snatching bodies off of helicopters. They was in a firefight, and them helicopters was bringing the wounded and the dead in, and my job, well, everybody that was there was to get those helicopters unloaded as quick as possible so they can get back in the air and get back out to the fight. And after about 4 or 5 hours of doing that, I said, oh man, I ain't staying here. I ain't staying here. They gave me a 4-man tent with just me in it. Cussed me out every day, and I would tell them, you can call me what you want to, you can say what you want to, but I ain't going out there. I ain't going out there. I ain't going out there. They sent me to school to be a pole climber and to work on telephone lines. I ain't going out there. I ain't no infantry. So they sent me back to where I came from. Well, when they sent me back to the 4th Infantry Division, they sent me what they call the rear, the main base camp, which was Camp Anari, right outside of Pleiku, up in the north central area of Vietnam, Pleiku. So while I was there, I wasn't going to do nothing, and they wouldn't bother with me, but it was this truck driver. He came to the tent looking for me. I said, well, man, what you looking for me for? He said, well, I need a shotgunner, and I prefer somebody that done been shot at. And they told me about you. So he was black. I was black. I said, okay, I'll be your shotgunner. And my mind started changing because for the first time, I was with another black person. That I was with another person that didn't call me nigger this and nigger that. A lot of days, Curry and I would be the only ones on the road. He drove the POL truck, the fuel truck.
Mm-hmm.
He drove the chow truck. He drove the water truck. And he drove the ammunition truck. He resupplied the tanks and APCs. And wherever he went, I went because I was his shotgunner. Stayed on the road with him. He did me a favor. He did me a favor at the time. I didn't know he was doing me a favor, but he did me a favor. He said, Durr, I'm going to teach you how to drive everything I drive. I said, teach me how to drive. I said, man, I don't need to drive. He said, yeah, I need to teach you how to drive. Because if something happened to me, you got to get this truck back to base camp. And I thought about it. If something happened to him, I would be out there by myself, you know? So I was very glad he taught me how to drive the deuce and a half,
Mm-hmm.
the 5-ton, and the 10-ton. Taught me how to drive them. Told me I was the best shotgunner he ever had.
Mm.
And I appreciate that. And then he left Vietnam before I did. I left Vietnam January of 1969. I went home for 2 weeks. Couldn't stay home for 2 weeks because nobody liked me. My mom was afraid of me. The guys that were my friends when we were coming up through high school, they were no longer there. I had no one to be with. I had no one to be with, so I just stayed there for about 3 or 4 days and I left. I went on out to Fort Riley, Kansas, where I was around other soldiers. And I was around a lot of black soldiers when I got out to Fort Riley, Kansas. We had some Vietnam vets that came back. We had a lot of black soldiers coming from Germany and Korea that was getting ready to get out of the service, and Fort Riley was the destination for them to transition out of the service. So I had a pretty good time out there at Fort Riley. I went from E2 to E5 in 9 months. And then all of a sudden, I got orders to go back to Vietnam for the second time. Oh man, I was hurt and I was devastated. These people trying to get me killed, and I ain't done a thing in the world for them to try to get me killed. And what made it so bad, they sent me right back to the 4th Infantry Division, the place where they burnt crosses on us. They hung nooses up. They just treated us like dirt. The company commander had a big old rebel flag behind his desk, and then he had the regular flag standing right outside his tent. And you knew from day one when you first got there that you was gonna be in trouble. All because of that flag. You automatically knew that you was gonna be in trouble. And they sent me right back there, but to a different unit. They sent me to the 124th Signal Unit. I thought I was fixing to really start learning how to work in my trade. But it didn't work out that way. They put me in a recon unit. The only difference between this recon unit and the first time I was in Vietnam is that in this recon unit, it was mostly black. It was mostly blacks in that unit. And we got along real good. We looked out for each other. We got to use the training that we had been trained with. Now comes the part about the Bronze Star and Curry. I had about 2 weeks left over there on my second tour. And the company commander was sending people over on the coast for what they call in-country R&R. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave outside camp because I'm short. I got less than 30 days. I don't want to go, so he ordered me to go. So I went. It was an overnight trip. I went. Next morning coming back, there's this place called the Manyang Pass. A lot of good people got killed at the Manyang Pass. A lot of good soldiers lost their life in the Manyang Pass. We were coming through the Manyang Pass in a convoy, and the guy that was driving this truck stopped. I'm on the back of the truck yelling at him, hollering at him, man, don't stop this truck, don't stop this truck, keep going, go, 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 don't stop this truck. But he stopped anyway. Oh, man. Bailed off of that truck because I knew it was going to be a target. Got all them other guys off the back of that truck, and we were down in the ditches. The truck that was right behind us couldn't come around because of the way the truck driver had stopped his truck. And I saw it. I saw it when that rocket just came in there and hit that truck right on the driver's door. Truck blew up. On fire. Nothing I can do. They're just shooting, they're just shooting, they're just shooting. And I don't see no target to shoot at. I don't see a target to shoot at. Because when the RPGs is first coming, you can't see them. But then when they get closer and closer, you can see that fiery tail coming from them. And they were not in shooting range. And then this machine gun fire. I don't know if he stopped shooting. I don't know if he ran out of ammo. I don't know if the machine gun jammed up on it. But right before the bullets got to me, they just quit. Zoop. They just quit. If they hadn't, would have cut me right in half. I said, man, we can't stay here. We got to go. And I came out of that ditch and I let the tailgate down on that truck. And I said, everybody get on. Come on, y'all. Get on the truck. Get on the truck. And nobody was moving. I said, man, y'all need to come on now and get on this truck. Get on this truck. Nobody was moving. So I jumped in the truck. I fired it up. And to tell you the truth, if they hadn't started piling on that truck, I was going to leave them right there. But when I got in that truck and fired that truck up and they started piling on that truck, I gave them all enough time to get on the truck, close up that tailgate, and I drove it out of there. Curry taught me how to drive. And that day, because Curry taught me how to drive, 30 soldiers that would have been killed got out alive. All because of me and that truck. That's how I got the Bronze Star. And I'm very, very, very proud of my Bronze Star. Now, I want you to understand, when I first came home out the service in 1970, I was not proud of anything. I was not proud of anything at all. The reason being, the people back home were protesting against the war. They were protesting against us, the soldiers, as if we were the ones that started the war. We didn't start the war. We just did our job as soldiers and Marines and Air Forcemen and Navymen. We did our job, and they was calling us baby killers and murderers and all that kind of stuff. Meeting us at the airport, all kind of derogatory stuff. So when I came home the second time, they brought us in the middle of the night because they didn't want us to come around all those protesters that was hating us for no particular reason. But when I got home, I didn't have a home. I didn't have a home when I got home. I didn't have a bed in my mama's house anymore when I got home. I didn't have a mama anymore when I got home. I didn't have sisters and brothers anymore when I got home. The hardest thing I had to face was finding a job. We had two people in High Springs that dealt with linemen. We had the electric company called Florida Power. Well, they wouldn't give me a job, even though I knew how to climb poles. They wouldn't give me a job because I had never worked with electricity, and I would be a liability to them. And the next choice was called Southern Bell. Back then, in them days, everybody called it Ma Bell. But they didn't hire blacks to climb poles at that time, and they didn't hire blacks to operate switchboard at that time, so I couldn't get a job there. Couldn't go back to the job I had. They tell you when you get back home, you can go back to the job you had before you came in service. But the job I had before I came in service was doing field labor, working in the watermelon fields and the tobacco fields and the vegetable fields and stuff like that. Got me a job working with the sanitation department. I call it the garbage people. We didn't have the kind of trucks they got now. We didn't have those kind of trucks. We had open bed trucks, 2 men on the ground and 1 on the truck. But I had to make a living, 65 cents an hour. I got fired off of that job. First time I ever been fired off a job in my life. I got fired because they said I didn't know how to get along with people. But I didn't know these guys I was working with. I didn't know them. They hired me to dump garbage cans. They didn't hire me to be friends with nobody. But they fired me because they said I didn't know how to get along with other people. I got married. She asked me to marry her, and I said I will, and then I said I do. And then she got tired of taking care of me because, like I said, I couldn't find no gainful employment. And I was doing seasonal work, and when it was no seasonal work, it just wasn't nothing to do. So I went back in the service. When I went back in the service, I went in and I wanted to become a medic. So they sent me to Fort Sam Houston, Texas for combat medic training. And then they sent me to Germany. I didn't want to go to Germany. God knows I didn't want to go to Germany. I wanted to stay right here in the United States. But they sent me to Germany. And that is when I got that patch down, when I went to Germany. 3rd Infantry Division.
Mm-hmm.
It was just as bad as the 4th Infantry Division, except at least there were a lot of brothers there that I could hang out with. And it was okay, except it was weird how they did it. It was still racism in the military. All the black medics were sent to line companies. All the white medics were sent to the hospital or the field dispensary.
Mm-hmm.
And they segregated us like that. Now, when you're in a line company, and I was in an infantry mechanized, they had infantry and armor unit there. They call it infantry mechanized. Them guys stay out in the field. They stay out in the field. And every time they go in the field, they have to take medics with them. And they gave me blanks. And I couldn't deal with blanks. I couldn't deal with blanks. Man, I done gone from bullets to blanks. I can't deal with this. I done gone from tropical to below zero. It's cold in Germany in November, December, January, and February. It get cold over there. It was snowing the day I got there. And I left there May the 2nd. It was snowing when I left up there in the mountain. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with it. So I wrote the Inspector General. I couldn't write back in them days. I did the best I could, you know. I couldn't write. Even today, I can't spell worth a darn, but I wrote him a letter as best as I could and told him, you know, that you need to come down here and do something about these people because all the white medics going to the hospital, all the black medics going to the line company, and when you ain't with the line company, you at the motor pool. And I say, I'm not a mechanic, and I'm not infantry. And if you don't do something about it, I'm going to kill some people. And I meant it. I meant it. The Inspector General must have told them, leave that man alone until I get there. Because they never bothered me again. I did what I felt was the right thing to do. I got up every morning. I made formations every morning. I obeyed the rules every day. But when they said, go to the motor pool, I went in the opposite direction. I went back to my hooch. I was not going to no motor pool. I went back to my hooch.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't bother me. They didn't bother me. Then when the Inspector General got down there, that was probably about 3 weeks after I had wrote the letter. And he came down there and he saw what was going on and he started firing people and replacing people and asking me what did I want. And at that time, I was just so fed up. I told him I want out the service. I want to go home. Even though I had no home to go to, I wanted to go home. So they put me on that big bird. We stopped in a place called Cairo, Egypt. This was in 1977. We got off the airplane and we had this one room where we all waited until the plane was ready to leave. They had armed guards in the building, but we were unarmed and we couldn't go anywhere. At that time, I didn't understand why we are here in this country, Egypt, Cairo, but we can't leave the airport. And then years later, when I learned how to read, I found out why it happened. We were at war with them at that time, 1977. A lot of stuff was going on in the Middle East, but they allowed the U.S. to use the landing strip, the airstrips, but didn't allow nobody in the country from the U.S. at that time. And then we were there for like about 10 hours while they were servicing the plane and stuff, and then came on home. And at that time, I said, either I'm going to make it or I'm going to commit suicide, because I'm tired of being a nothing and a nobody. I came over here to the VA hospital. They put me on some medication, sent me home. But they didn't tell me what the medication was for. They didn't tell me why they were putting me on the medication. And so I figured, well, when the medication run out, I must be going to be healed or cured of whatever they found wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
So when the medication ran out, I didn't know I was supposed to get no refills. But I got in trouble with the police. I wasn't doing a thing in the world except walking down the sidewalk trying to find me somewhere to sleep that night. And the police came up to me and told me to get on the ground. I said, get on the ground for what? I ain't done nothing. And he got real nasty. There were two of them. They got real nasty. Get on the ground, you so and so and so. If you don't get on the ground, we're going to put you on the ground. Well, you're going to have to put me on the ground because I ain't getting on the ground. And a fight started. Me and two. In the end, it was me and 20. They just kept coming. They just kept coming. They just kept coming. And I just couldn't take no more. But they never got me on the ground. They throwed me across the hood of the car, handcuffed me, but I never got on the ground. And then, when they were taking me to jail, the dude told me, he says, niggas like you that make me go around the corner and beat another nigga upside the head. I said, well, you do what you want to do, as long as you don't hit me upside the head. And a couple of days later, he killed his partner.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Killed his partner. Over there in Porter's Quarter, thought they was looking for me. Wasn't me. One went round the house one way, went round the house the other way, and they thought that was me going to run out from there. And he started shooting and killed his own partner, thought he was shooting at me.
Wow.
So what they did, they went in this house, drug a man out of his house, and swore that he was the one they were looking for. Tim Good and Shannon Ray Stevenson. Never will forget them. Never will forget John Violet. Never will forget Lieutenant Alders. Never will forget Specialist E5 Lloyd. Never will forget Bray. Never will forget them. As a matter of fact, I went to Wisconsin one time. A little place up there called Onalaska, Wisconsin. I went up there looking for it. Get up there, wasn't no black people there. Not one black people lived in that town. I had to hurry up and get the hell out of that town. I did too. I went to a place called Gary, Indiana, looking for Specialist E5 Lloyd. Stayed up there a whole week. Couldn't find him. I came home. I went out to Santa Fe. And they had this vet rep out there. Santa Fe was not like it is now. Santa Fe was kind of like scattered out all over Gainesville, little buildings here, buildings there, while they was building the main campus and stuff. Talked to the vet rep, messed around and got into remedial training groups, learned how to read. But I never learned how to get along with people. Until nine years ago. Met that guy from the Gainesville Vet Center. Told me that they have a hospital over there in Lake City. Wanted me to come over there. I went over there. Put me on medication. Told me why they were putting me on the medication. Told me what to expect while I was on the medication. And then they told me that I had something called PTSD. My psychiatrist at that time asked me how had I survived all those years without any help. How did you survive? I blamed it on luck. Because I didn't know about Christ. I started going to the Lake City VA. I was going over there 2 hours a day, 4 days a week. Meet with the psychiatrist. I did that for about 2 months. And then I started going 4 days a week, 1 hour a day. And they sent me down to Bay Pine, down by St. Petersburg. They had a PTSD drug alcohol treatment center down there. They sent me down there. And the thing we had to do with the thing that I couldn't do, we had to actually talk about our combat experiences. We had to sit in group with these people that you don't even know and talk about our combat experiences and what we went through. Every man there at one point or another boo-hoo cried like a baby, including me. After the treatment program was over and they sent me back home, now I go see the psychiatrist twice a week, 2 hours a day, every Tuesday and every Thursday. And I still take my medication. And getting along with people is getting a little bit easier than it used to be. I gotta back up because this here is very important. Very, very, very important. 1968. 2 people were murdered here in the United States, all because they wanted to help poor people, not just black, not just Afro-Americans. They wanted to help poor people in general. Robert Kennedy was running for president, and they killed him. Dr. Martin Luther King was preaching equal rights without civil disobedience, and they killed him. The thing about it is, though, that they had been dead a long time before we found out about it in Vietnam. We didn't find out about it in Vietnam until like maybe 2 or 3 months later, when some new guys rotated in, man, you got to be joking. Oh, man, they killed Robert Kennedy over there in California. They killed Dr. King over there in Louisiana. Man, y'all got to be joking. He was running for president. Yeah, but they killed him anyway because they were so afraid of what the black soldier might or would have done at that stressful time. At that stressful time. It was very stressful too, because we already catching hell over here.
Mm-hmm.
If you check the records, you'll see that more African Americans were killed in Vietnam than any whites. You'll also notice that there was a high number of KIAs killed in action, shot in the back by friendly fire. Another thing, Lieutenant Kelly and My Lai was just a scapegoat. What they accused Lieutenant Kelly and his platoon of doing, there were many units, even mine, that did the same thing. You go in this village and the enemy is supposed to be there, and you can't get no information from the people, they would burn the village. They would burn it, step down. Most of the houses were like shanty towns, built out of whatever they could put together. Never seen a house built out of straw and it wouldn't leak until I went to Vietnam. Pulled down raining, but it didn't leak inside. However they put that straw together. Yeah, I think about all the dirt I had to do, but not just me, just being a soldier. Just wanting to come home alive, wanting to get decorated so people would know I was a good soldier and I was not a coward the way they would have had people to think I was. I was no coward. I was a good soldier. I did what I was supposed to have done. I went above and beyond the call of duty to help others. And even today, I do the same thing. I go to Lake City every Tuesday and every Thursday to see my psychiatrist, my psychologist, and I still spend an hour or so talking to other vets that's coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq. When I came home from Vietnam, the drug of choice was powdered cocaine and marijuana. These girls and guys that coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq, their drug of choice is heroin. Cocaine and marijuana was real easy to get in Vietnam, and heroin is real easy to get over in Iraq and Afghanistan. Guys be telling me about they supposed to go out sometimes and burn the fields. He was telling me about how they would cut the bulbs off the plants, take them back home, and then the resin that comes out is what he said they make heroin out. A lot of them is heroin addicts, opiate addicts, and no one is really helping them.
Yeah.
So I'm over there anyway, so I try to help them if they let me help them. A lot of them won't let me help them. They don't trust anyone. But I remember the struggles I went through all those years of getting in trouble, going to jail, not being able to have meaningful relationships, not knowing how to get along with people. You know, I struggled with that, and I see a lot of these guys and girls struggling. I just try to be helpful. I just try to be helpful. Now, today, I'm on medication. I'm going to be on that medication for the rest of my life. I take 13 pills every morning when I wake up, and I take 9 every night before I go to bed. If I get 2 hours of sleep, that's good. That's very good for me. If I get 2 hours of sleep, that's very good for me. I don't want to do nobody no harm. I don't want to do nobody no wrong like I used to. I just don't want nobody bothering me. I know that my siblings ain't gonna never change the way they feel about me. I know my mom ain't never gonna change the way she feel about me. I was a little boy when I left home. I was a grown man when I came back. I've seen stuff that until recently I couldn't even talk about because it was just inside me and I didn't know how to talk about it. But Dr. McLaughlin told me, he said, if you don't talk about it, it's going to just get worse and worse and worse. If you talk about it, Durr, it'll ease some of the tension. And sure enough, when I started going to groups and learning to trust the guys that was in the groups with me and learning to talk about what actually happened in Vietnam, feel like a heavy weight lift off of me. Still got a long way to go. Anybody that have to see a psychiatrist twice a week got a long way to go. But I'm going to work my program. I'm going to work at it. I'm going to try to be useful and helpful to the vets that's coming back. I have 2 daughters. Well, I have 2 stepdaughters that went to Iraq. One was a cook and one was a chaplain assistant. The one that was a cook, she got PTSD so bad, but she ain't crazy. Everybody else crazy. And because she and I don't have a very close relationship, there's nothing I can do to help her.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing I can do to help her.
Is this from your marriage, your stepdaughter?
Huh?
Is this your stepdaughter from your second marriage? Is this your stepdaughter from a second marriage?
This
Okay.
is my stepdaughter from my stepdaughter from my third marriage.
Third marriage, okay.
Yeah, I've been married and divorced 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
My stepdaughter from my third marriage. But I can't help nobody unless they want to be helped. I can't help her unless she decide that she needs help. It's so much I done left out. It's so much I haven't talked about yet. Just trying to keep it all straight in my mind. I'm on a medication. I took it about 30 minutes before I sent the first text message.
Mm-hmm.
I have to take it PRN in case when I know I'm going to be in a stressful situation, I have to take that medication and it just like I am now. It just numbs me down.
Calms you down, huh?
Just numbs me down. And I took it about, I guess about quarter to 4, 20 minutes to 4 when I took it. And I'm just feeling relaxed. I can deal with it. It's afterwards that I'm going to have problems. But I brought 2 with me. I got one in the car and I took one, so when I get back to my car, I'll take another one so I don't get involved in no road rage incident.
What?
I'm so glad I got a chance to talk about this because they treated black soldiers so nasty in Vietnam. They treated us as if we were the enemy. And when I saw that ad in the Gainesville Sun, and I took that ad to Lake City, VA with me, a whole bunch of guys said, "Can you get them to come over here?" I said, "I don't know whether I can get them to come over here or not." But there's so many guys got a story to tell. There's a lot of guys they call missing in action. A lot of guys is missing because they wanted to be missing. Some of them got involved in the black market. And they don't want to come back to America.
Yeah.
They got wrapped up in the black market. They was getting all that money. I saw guys that would write home and have someone to send them American money because American money on the black market in Vietnam at that time brought you a lot of cash money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of MIAs that wants to be MIAs. And these people that they're bringing to America now, that they're calling mountain nards, they aren't mountain nards. They're lying. Mountain nards are black as me with hair like yours. And they never, ever worked for the United States Army. Never. They were nomads. The Army didn't keep track of where they were. You go out on patrol and here's a whole village just blowed up where they bombed it. And ain't nothing else but mountain nards. Stack them up, pour diesel fuel on them, light them up. The whole village dead. These people they bringing back, I'm mountain nard, I'm mountain nard. They aren't mountain nards. They're Latanians, Cambodians, and South Vietnamese. And I'm wondering why they're telling this lie that they're supposed to be helping the mountain nards, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. And only us that experienced it, only us that was in the mountains. See, Vietnam, South Vietnam is divided up into 2 places. It was divided up into 4 sections, but 2 places. Up in the north where I was, you're up in the mountains. Down in the south where I was not, that's where you're tropical, subtropical, where they grow all their rice and stuff. Up in the mountains, they grow bananas. And like I said, the mountain nards were nomads. We didn't keep track of where they were. They might be here today and there tomorrow. They're constantly moving, constantly moving. Then when we sent in airstrikes, we didn't know where they were. Just blow them up, burn them up. Women, men, children. It was my job. It was my job. I did my job. And I didn't know anything about you could disobey orders did my job.
Durr, what should civilians know? What should civilians understand about the experience of Vietnam veterans? What should civilians understand about the experience of Vietnam veterans?
Vietnam vets, we are a lost cause. I say we are a lost cause because we went into a war with no objective, with no clear objective. We went into a war that had no line. You can't say I was on the front line in Vietnam. You can't say I was behind enemy lines in Vietnam because we were fighting in a jungle. We were fighting a people that had no idea why we were fighting them. South Vietnam and North Vietnam were separated by France.
Mm-hmm.
One in the north wanted to remain communistic, and south of the DMZ, they wanted to learn how to live democratically. Well, the communist side of Vietnam didn't want that. They wanted the whole Vietnam to be just the way it is now. One country, undivided, communistic. They got exactly what they wanted. We killed people. We got people killed. And we can't say why. We can't say we were trying to liberate this person, or we were trying to liberate this people, or we were trying to liberate this country when there was no liberation sought after. There was no liberation to even be thought of because no one really wanted that. Now, from a black soldier point of view, I look at Vietnam like it was just a way to get niggas out of the States and get them killed because of all the turmoil that was happening right here in America in 1967. I say 1967 because that is the year I left home to become a soldier.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff started going on in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And it just went on. There were black soldiers that, for some reason or another, got in trouble. And the judge gave them a choice: join the service or go to prison. Now, if I got a choice like that, I think I would rather join the service for 2 or 3 years than to go to prison for 20. And those started being at the end of my tour in 1970. Those were the kind of soldiers we were getting.
Yeah.
Those that had a choice of going to prison or going to the service. They didn't care about nothing. They didn't care about rules. They didn't care about nothing. They didn't care about doing nothing but serving their time so they could get out. And most of them were the ones that got into the black market trade.
Mm-hmm.
They was already criminals, and when they got to Vietnam, they just saw more. And I'm talking about black soldiers because those are the ones I was around mostly after I wasn't Full Point no more. That's mostly what they were. You know, they came over there criminals. They lived like criminals. They went AWOL. They became MIAs. Nobody really looked for them because, I mean, it was easy to go to Thailand from South
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam, and that's what a lot of them did. Thailand was a place where they called it in-country R&R. And a lot of the guys, they would like go on this 2-week R&R and never come back from Thailand. So there's a lot of them that didn't do what they should have done, which was be a good soldier. Other than that, I'm still struggling with the VA. I messed my back up when I was in pole climbing school. I was 18 years old, and I fell off the top of a 35-foot pole, and I messed my back up. Well, now the older I get, the more it hurt, and I've been struggling with the VA about trying to get my disability on my back. The last job I had, I got fired because I could no longer perform my job as a janitor. And even though I got all the documentation that I needed to show them down there at Bay Pine that I hurt my back while I was in the service, but I didn't run on sick call all the time because I was a soldier. I didn't have to go on sick call. I toughed the pain out. And now that I'm getting older, I can't tough the pain out anymore.
Yeah.
Today's soldier should be proud to serve a country like the United States of America. Even though we have faults, even though we have shortcomings, there is no country, not even Canada, on the face of this earth that is as good as being a North American, now country. And to serve our country, to be an all-volunteer military, as opposed to being a draft military, people should just be able to realize from just living, from just existing, from just being educated, that we are a country that is made up of all kinds of people from every walk of life. And even though we have some of the criminal elements sneaking in, most of the people that want to come to America want what we call the American dream, freedom. And freedom means a lot to a person that has never been free. I had never been free. I was a prisoner because of my color. But then when I learned that I can't change my color, but I can change my ways, and then when I decided to start looking at things from a different light, people are not all good, and people are not all bad. And the ones that call me all these names and stuff, and the ones that can't stand me because of my color, and the ones that couldn't stand me because I refused to go on patrol, that's just them. That's them. And I don't need to keep worrying about that because I can't change that. I can just try to learn how to be happy for the few days that I have left in this life. Try to learn how to be happy. And like I said, I take medication every day, and I'm going to be on that medication for the rest of my life. I stopped taking it one time just to see what would happen. And other people noticed a change in my behavior before I noticed a change in my behavior. There's one store in High Springs that I go to all the time because I don't care what time of day you go there, you can get a fresh cup of coffee. And they got all this different stuff in there, just like Starbucks, where you can make your own coffee. But you can go in that store, Kangaroo, any time of day and get a fresh cup of coffee. And I frequent that store. And the people in that store want to know, Durr, what's the matter? What do you mean, what's the matter? You're not the same today. You seem like something is bothering you. You don't have the smile on your face. You didn't speak when you came in the door like you normally do. And I said, wow, that's my medication that I'm not taking. And I said, when I get home, I'm going to take my medication, and I ain't going to never stop taking my medication again. Never, because other people can see me changing before I can. I got one thing. Dwight Johnson. I need you to write this name down, please, sir, because I want you to look him up.
I got it right here.
Dwight Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I served with him.
Mm-hmm.
He won the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Wow.
That particular day when we thought we were fighting a company, and come to find out we were fighting a battalion of North Vietnamese regulars, Oh man, we was outgunned, outmanned, but we was not outfought. We won that battle. Dwight Johnson.
Dwight Hal Johnson.
Huh?
Dwight Hal Johnson.
Won the Congressional Medal of Honor.
I see that.
And got killed robbing a liquor store.
Huh.
Got killed robbing a liquor store because when he came home, no one helped him.
They treated him like an African American got treated in those days.
Yeah. No one with the Congressional Medal of Honor should have to go and rob a liquor store just to get a drink. And I served with him. I was there that day when he was a one-man fighting machine. When they came up, my patrol is the one that had spotted these people. And then we were not to engage. We just call in and give the information. So it wasn't people like 10 or 12 of us. And we thought we had spotted a company of North Vietnamese regulars. You could tell they were North Vietnamese regulars by the uniform they were wearing and the equipment they had. So when we called it in, when the squad leader called it in, they sent these tankers down there and the APCs. And when they engaged them, man, it was like, whoa, a lot more than we thought they were. So they kept getting reinforcement coming in. And when Dwight got there, he was a driver. His tank threw a track. The only thing he could do was go in circles. Him and the 3 other guys that was in his tank suspended all their ammunition, all of it. They ran dry. They got out of their tank and they went and joined other people in their tank. Because, man, them RPGs, there's some tanks in Vietnam that ain't going to never leave Vietnam, because them RPGs, when they hit them, they melt. And everybody in there is dead. So those tanks ain't never coming back to America. But these guys, man, you could tell they were warriors by how they came out them APCs and how they positioned them tanks and how they just like battlefield crazy. And Dwight Johnson, some that he couldn't kill with his rifle, he killed with his hand. One tank was burning, he went and drugged the guys out of the tank that was burning and took them back to a safe distance away from the tank. And oh man, I just looked at him that day, man, and I said, wow, that is a man now.
Well,
I left him in Vietnam. I ETS before he did.
Durr, I can't thank you enough. We have so much over here. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for telling us your story. Thank you for Thank you, sir. Thank you. And we'll be in touch soon. We'll be in touch soon.
I sure like that.
Yeah, this was amazing. Thank you. Thank you for your courage in telling us your story. I know it can't be easy.